going to be moving into our mobile marketing lightning talks. Up first, we have Mada Seghete, who is the co-founder of Branch. And today she's here to talk about how the mobile ecosystem changes marketing and what this is going to mean for our brand. So, wow. Take it away.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm so excited to be in Toronto today. It's my second time in Toronto, but the first time I just drove through it to college, so super excited to be here. So let's start. It's a new world. So basically my talk will be about the mobile ecosystem and how that has changed, and the more fragmented it becomes, it makes it harder and harder for the brands out there to survive and thrive. So I'm going to kind of explain why that is, and then I'm going to have 5 different tips to help your brand create your own little mobile fortress. I'm going to have a lot of Game of Thrones analogies, so I apologize for those of you who don't watch it, and I think the ones who watch it will actually enjoy it. So, about me, the most important moments of my life. I was born, then I graduated from university as an engineer, and I went into product, so I was a product manager for a while. And then in 2012, my co-founders and I actually started a mobile company. It was a photo book printing app called Kindred, where you could take your photos and print them, and it was amazing. We sold a bunch of photo books. That's when we started realizing how hard it is for a mobile entrepreneur to actually make it in mobile. We didn't have any money. We ended up raising a little bit, but we really struggled to get our app off the ground. We were trying to build sharing and referrals, and I was doing all the mobile marketing, and I realized how hard it was to track and really customize the app install experience when someone came into the app. And that's when we started Branch. We actually started Branch to be a mobile linking and analytics company that solved the problems that we had, and then we realized that every other mobile brand out there had. So that's how we started. Today, 4 years later, it's actually been pretty much 4 years and a week. We have 7 offices, we're 165 people, and we have a lot of brands like Slack and Airbnb and New York Times all using us to create better mobile experiences. Okay, that's enough about me and Branch, so let's talk about the mobile ecosystem. So why is there a new world? Why is the title of my presentation a new world? So if you think about the platform, it used to be that 10 years ago it was all on desktop, and mobile emerged, but not everyone moved to mobile. So all users today are actually split between using and interacting with a brand on different devices and but as well on desktop. So we live in the multi-platform world, and this is a new world because you can't just go and build an app, interact with your users, or you can't just build a website, interact with your users. You need to give them a full-on journey, and it's more than just devices, as I'll get to. So it's all about fragmentation. We are in a new world because the world we live in is a very fragmented world, and it's not coming together, it's becoming more fragmented. As more and more platforms come, it's becoming actually harder and harder to keep up with all of them and provide a consistent experience across all of them. So the web was easy. You know, in the web, there was something called the HTTP protocol that all of you know, that actually unified the way all websites are built. And that's a very important argument that I think many of you today maybe don't think about. But all websites are created the same. So when you enter a link, you know where you're going to go. What happens when mobile came along, there was no unifying. There is nothing in apps that's the same as the HTTP protocol. Android and iOS build apps very differently. So what might work to take someone within an app on iOS is not the same way you're going to take someone in the same space into an app on Android. And there used to be something called the URI scheme that kind of unified things, but then both Android and iOS introduced new things that actually made it even harder. So there is no unification on mobile. And the phone is only the beginning. Now you have watches, you have cars, you're going to have home entertainment systems, and they all are different. So fragmentation goes at many levels. It goes at the OS levels. You have iOS and Android and tvOS and watchOS and Fire, and you have tons of hardware devices. And while Apple tries to kind of keep them all together, on Android, each device is different, and there's no like policing system that makes them all the same. And then from a medium perspective, you have the apps, but then you have web browsers. And web browsers are not enough because each platform tries to create their own browser. So you have Safari View controllers for Facebook and Twitter, and they all have their cookie systems that don't talk to each other. And obviously, the platforms built on top of that. Each big networking app brand out there is trying to build their own. Is trying to build their own way to keep the user in. So you have AMP for Google and progressive web apps. And WeChat is building a whole ecosystem where you never have to leave WeChat. So if you're a brand and you want to work in China, you have to build an app inside of WeChat. Snapchat is trying to do the same. So this is really interesting because the way the user can engage with your brand can be in many different ways. They can be in iOS and on an iPad, and they go through you in the Facebook browser. Or they can be on Android, on one specific Samsung device, and they can be in the Opera browser, and then they can go into a Google AMP, and then try to actually get the app in the App Store. And all of these are very different and require you to think very differently about the way you interact with your user. So there's thousands of possibilities. You can't just say, oh, I'm a brand, I want to work, we're going to build an iOS app, and then we're done. You're not actually done. So after looking at all of this and doing a lot of research and building Branch to basically try to help brands fight these larger ecosystems, I realized that platforms are like empires. They're very selfish. And when they build ecosystems, they're not building ecosystems for you, the brand. They're building ecosystems for them because they actually want to own the user's time. That's how they make money. The more time someone spends in Facebook or in WeChat or in Snapchat, the more money they make. So of course they're going to build things inside their platform to force you to build on their platform so they can continue owning the user. So we have the incumbents, Facebook and Google and Apple, but now we have WeChat and Snapchat coming from the West. And VR and AR are also new platforms that you need to keep in mind because they're going to grow and they're going to interact with your users differently. And to just give you an example about how Google takes advantage of that, and it makes me really happy that Google is being fined for this, because even looking at this next slide, it's actually crazy how much advantage they take of the power they have in the search world. So this is a search we did, I think about a year ago when I first put together the slides, on Tiny Bus, the movie. And we actually went through the Google search results, and we categorized, okay, like the search results on mobile. And the first 2 pages below the fold, it's all Google content. This is content owned fully by Google. And then you have some organic content mixed with AdWords, and then you have AMP content. And if you're searching for news, AMP would be even higher up. And that's also hosted and owned by Google. You can build on top of it, but Google owns it. And then you finally get to the actual organic content, and then you have more Google content. And this is crazy. This is less than 5% of the searches that come up before you click on the next page is owned by Google. So in a world where you don't have that much power, and these large ecosystems have all the power, what do you do? How do you build your own mobile kingdom? 1, build your own fortress. So what does that mean, building your own fortress? It means that you have to build your own brand outside of these ecosystems or on the ones that are friendlier to you. A mobile app is friendlier than building an app within Facebook or even building an app page. So building this and figuring out where do your users engage better with you and actually try to take the users there while you take advantage of the ecosystems built by the giants. So, and I'll use Ticketmaster as an example to the presentation, but for Ticketmaster, their fortress is actually their mobile app. And then, once you build it and decided what it was, it can be your website. It can be a progressive web app. You have to decide for yourself where your users engage better with you. And then you fight for your users. So you use other entities as a way to gain users and then bring them back into the app. So this is an example from Ticketmaster, where if people get to go to their mobile website, they actually show them, and we help them do this, they show them little banners that says, OK, go and install the app. Because what they've seen is actually that when people are in the app, they engage much better with Ticketmaster. They are more willing to go to concerts and buy tickets and open the app and see what's around me. And they'll buy more and they'll engage more in their app. So they use their other properties like Facebook and all the other ones to bring people back. And interestingly enough, they built sharing. So when someone shares seats and gets to select, they actually found a way that people can bring their friends inside the app as well. And then the other really interesting thing, and this is an example of something that they did with progressive web apps, they actually got users without first having to install the app on Android to actually do everything from selecting tickets to purchasing the app in progressive web app, in Android Instant Apps, sorry, Android Instant Apps. They get to do them all there without having to install the full app. And then if they have a good experience, they show them a button that says, OK, install the full app now. And then they use everything else as a way to bring people to the app. So they bring people into the app from mobile, from email, from text messages, from Google AdWords, from Facebook, from all the other places. The other interesting thing is you can actually use tricks to get users out of walled gardens. And this is an example of WeChat. So WeChat actually completely blocks deep links. So you cannot open another app from WeChat. And they do this on purpose because they want everyone to stay in WeChat. So this was a trick we used. And you can use it not just in WeChat, but in others. If you detect basically the browser that someone's in, you can show them something that says, hey, open the app, click on more, and this is how you actually do it. Or you can show them big interstitials that say, if they're in the Safari browser, they see a big interstitial that actually takes them into the app. But if they're coming from search, they don't see that because that could actually hurt your search results. And it's very simple to do that. I'm not going to go through that. Another example is an app called Goat, and they sell these cool sneakers. So if you're into sneakers, check out Goat. But the biggest thing with Goat is it's all social. So they're cool sneakers that people share on Facebook and Twitter. And it's all about the content. So they actually use this content to get people outside of social and into their app where they can engage better and keep sharing more. So they use all of this. They use these banners that they show in the Safari View controller to take people inside their app. OK, 3, and this I think probably would make sense for all of you. Finding allies. And finding allies that can help you gain more users into your app. So I have a few examples here. One of my favorites, because I can never find parking, is SpotHeroWays. So SpotHeroWays worked on this great partnership where if you're in Waze and you're driving somewhere, you can actually, SpotHero finds you help parking. And you can see all of that directly in Waze, but from there, you can actually open the app directly into the SpotHero app and get the parking. And it's a great user experience for Waze, but it's a great way to acquire new users for SpotHero. The other one is, this is an older example, but there was a cooking app called Milli, and you were going and cooking and finding a recipe. And then they built this into integration with Instacart where you actually could find your entire shopping list. And from there, you say, OK, I want to buy these things. And you would install Instacart. And then you would open Instacart. You would have all the things already added into your cart. And you could just buy them. It was a great implementation. And it helped Instacart gain more users. And then finding arbitrage opportunities. This is my favorite because I think a lot of the way I build the branch marketing is finding arbitrage opportunities. I always go after new platforms. So in the very early days of Facebook ads, not that many people were going, everyone was going after consumer, and I started doing developer ads, and they were very cheap, and we got a lot of people to learn about branch, especially internationally that way. And even in the way of Kindred, when we were doing the app, it was the very early days of install ads, and I used them all, and our entire audience was people that I bought from Facebook for very cheap. It's not true anymore. I think costs are now 10 times what they were when I was doing it. But the point is, I leverage a very new, I leverage something new. And I've heard people that did this with Snapchat and did really well in the early days of Snapchat ads. So the idea is, or influencers on Instagram and Twitter, and that worked really well, doesn't work as well now. So the point is, you have to find those new things, those emerging things, and try them out, because you might find a gold mine, and it won't last for that long, but you can't just do the same thing over and over again. You have to try the new things. Android Instant Apps is an interesting one. You know, when Ticketmaster did it, and I know a few other apps, Google actually promoted them heavily, gave them better search results. Same with AMP. The people who went and adopted AMP in the early days got a lot of free traffic because Google was basically giving search priority to AMP results. And then lastly, and then I'll end, but this is my favorite one. And this is something that I think it's important because the larger companies can do that. They can put the customers at the center, while any of you who own a mobile brand can. And that's what helped us when we were doing Kindred. And this is a picture of me and my co-founders when we are still just the four of us doing Kindred. And we have something called Influence Analytics for Branch, and we built Branch first for Kindred. And we saw who our top 100 users were, both in terms of paying, but also in terms of sharing. And we sent them all Christmas cards with a photo of our team. And it was amazing because they loved it and they kept sharing. And we do this now at Branch. We try to find who are our best customers and give them a lot of attention. But we do the same with everyone. We have free support. And we were able to win over, Google had a very competing product, but they weren't offering any support at all. Or you only had 2 questions. And people couldn't figure it out and came to us. And we even helped them with their Google problems, but then they tried our service out. So the point is, if you put the customer as a center and you always help them, you will go far. And that's kind of one of the ways you can win. This is one of the other things we did in the early days. We found all the customers. They gave us a bad review. And we actually emailed them and asked them why. And we understood that maybe they didn't get a shipment. And we got them to change their reviews. And that was amazing. It got us to have higher reviews and be featured in the App Store. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. My last advice is if you're failing, if you have any issues, just keep building, just keep trying new things. That is, I think, the way to win in the app ecosystem. Thank you.